Hi guys, how we doing? Happy Friday. Hope everyone's well. It's 2 p.m. UK time, Friday, March the 6th. Getting ready for game week 29, which, as we found out on Tuesday evening, is now a double game week. Get yourselves in the chat, guys. Get questions going. For those of you who have listened to the audio podcast of this morning's final plan, thank you for the feedback on that. I'm really happy to answer any questions anyone's got on the back of that this morning. I guess there's a lot of people thinking strategy at the moment. Happy to answer anything about obviously transfers, planning ahead, what you're thinking, and also bring some other stuff. You got some football trivia, general football questions. If you want to ask me my thoughts on what happened with Eric Dyer and Spurs and all that, crack on. So essentially, if you don't ask questions, nothing happens. The little man is asleep. I'm intending for this one to be about an hour today. So let's crack on. Let's get in the chat. Let's see what's happening. Will Bottomley, given the inconclusive, what did you expect, news from Pep about KDB, is he still a captain option or no? If not, is Alba for a hit? We'll just go with Salah, the better alternative. Cheers, James. I'm going with Salah. I made that decision very early. For me, this announcement of the doubles come as no surprise. It's something that as soon as Arsenal lost on Thursday, I thought would become a reality. Just surprised how long the announcement took to come round. Once it got to Tuesday, I started becoming doubtful because it's really something that should have been cleared up a lot earlier. But I always had the intention of Salah. And part of that being that I know that people can't resist the double game week temptation. I'd read on Guardiola's comments on Kevin De Bruyne I think he'll play. I think the most likely scenario at the moment is that he'll play on Sunday, assess afterwards. I don't think he'll play Arsenal and Burnley. I'd personally probably be quite keen for him to miss the Arsenal game because I think he would maybe be my captain for the Burnley fixture in game week 30. I'll worry about that once I get there. I'm going to go Salah. I think Salah will still be the most captains in the game. I think his effective ownership would be massive. I think the majority of people going doubles who are not engaged with the game so much will go Aubameyang. I'm not saying that's a bad move. That's just what I think will happen. And I think there's a lot of people in between will go with De Bruyne. I presume the yellow flag for De Bruyne will stay on the official site, and I think that will be enough to put people off. But I would have read from the comments today that I think De Bruyne will play actually on Sunday. It's still a Manchester derby, no matter obviously that their league situation dictates that it just doesn't really matter. But the game on the day will matter. I think De Bruyne will play. I don't expect him to play all 3 league games ahead of Madrid. I think that goes for the majority of the squad, other than Ederson, I guess. So I'm going Salah. Nothing swayed my opinion on that. Must be said, I won't be confirming. I've made one, and I'll come back onto it. I've made one of 2 free transfers. I do know what I want the other one to be, but I'm going to hold the other one back with no issue of a price rise or price fall till 11:20 a.m. tomorrow morning, just in case, because obviously we should hopefully have the Liverpool team news before the deadline. Edwin Guan, worth a -4 to get players playing twice this game week. Egg Alba. See, this is where it's interesting. So I see a lot of people doing this, and it's fine. It's no rights or wrongs, a little bit like with the chip strategy. There are, for me, bench boost 37, but otherwise, really play it however you want. And this is a little bit similar. There are pros and cons to doing this. So, like, one of the things I didn't mention on the podcast this morning, and once it goes out on YouTube, is obviously on the other side of, if you're free hitting in 31, for example, and you go -4 Aubameyang now, and obviously you think, I don't want him in 31 because he's obviously not playing. The other side in 32, they play at home to Norwich as well, and he looks a great captaincy option. So I can see the idea of getting him in, not just for now. Next week, they're away to Brighton. Free hit 31. He plays 32, so I can see people taking that strategy. And I think if that's your plan, there's justifiable means to do it. My circumstance is a little bit different because I've got 2 players that I think a lot of people want to go to in the next couple of weeks, being Jimenez and Jota are both already in my squad. And I'm not selling Danny Ings at home to the most out-of-form side in the league over the last 10 game weeks, which is Newcastle United. So, on the other side, I might decide, I don't want Ings. I'm going to restructure. Ings could come through with me. He might go before. My intention is not to free hit in 31. That's a certainty for me now. So I just can't justify removing any of those three for Aubameyang as the personal. Elsewhere in the pitch, I just think there's too many issues with potential rotation. I've got De Bruyne. I'm happy with that. The player that would tempt me most from both sides, if I was to buy, is Otamendi. I've said that earlier in the week, and I think people might find that a little bit bizarre, but I think he'll play both. And that would be my theory on that. It would be a short-term move until Laporte's back. But I think the fact that Fernandinho was a sub in Madrid and actually started Otamendi with Laporte bodes well for Otamendi in the short term. And I think you have to know that if you go for a player like that, it is a short term, because no sooner could you do it, you might have to reverse it again. That's the player I would go to. I'm not going for any of them. I'm just going to skip on through. I look at it and go, there'll be mass rotation for City. Look at the team they picked in the League Cup final. And for Arsenal, good fixture tomorrow at home to West Ham. Would we have bought them without the extra game? The extra game that's away to one of the best sides on the planet? It's not for me. I think for those who want to go Aubameyang captain, completely justifiable to take the hit. And Edwin Guan also says, oh, Adama is fit. Yeah. So I've sold him in FPL. I haven't yet in Sky, but sold him in FPL because I really want to go to Matt Doherty. And obviously having Jimenez and Jota as well means I can't go down that route. I think Jimenez, Jota, Doherty is the best three Wolves to get hold of. I think that's because of the lack of forwards available in game week 31. I think a lot will go Jimenez and Jota, and I think money isn't going to be an issue. So I think a lot of people free hit will go Doherty. So that's the three that I want. So I've moved Adama Traore to Ismaila Sarr. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to start Ismaila Sarr tomorrow. It's a call really between him and Jack Grealish away to Leicester on Monday night. So I've moved Traore on. If you've got, great. Those who were on the stream last week, I'm not saying I told you so that he'd play at Spurs, but I told you so. And I think if he's fit, then he'll play. It's obviously a 5-day break from Brighton tomorrow till the Europa League games. Expect Wolves to go as strong as tomorrow. Just depends what his situation is. But they've got to manage him. That's a certainty. So it's fine. The other transfer in terms of who I'd be removing for Doherty at the moment is Diego Rico. I'm sitting with about 2.5 million in the bank. And then, ironically, I probably would not be starting Charlie Taylor at home to Spurs. It'd actually probably become my second sub. So just want to wait on the Liverpool team news tomorrow just to make sure that's right, just in case Salah isn't playing or something. If Robertson or Trent was left out, I'd make the same move and I'd just leave those guys on the bench. So it's almost certainly I'll make the transfer. It's just worthwhile me waiting, I think. But yeah, if he's fit, it's fine. It's fine, but it needs managing. Callum Stokes, afternoon, James. Hope you recovered from Wednesday, mate. I half expected it, Callum. Anybody who's been listening to me on the pods knows my feelings on Spurs at the moment. I genuinely think that if we didn't have 40 points, we was on, I don't know, if we were 13, 14 for them, I think we'd be fucked. I think we'd be in massive trouble. It's bad. You want to bet tomorrow, get on Burnley. Spurs walking wounded, mate. Lucas wanted to come off after half hour Wednesday, shattered fatigue. Don't know why. Bergwijn lasted an hour, shattered fatigue. I don't know if there's been an update on Dele Alli. If someone's heard that, please do let me know. But I anticipate he'd probably be suspended tomorrow. It's good news that Loris is back fit. That's really important. God knows why he played Vorm over Gazzaniga. I don't understand that, geezer. Yeah, it's bad. I'm sure we'll talk about Spurs a bit more. Dan 76 Lord, our Liverpool correspondent, Alan Mates, thanks for the pod this morning. Mind is made up. Me and Dan were messaging last night, and I obviously we'd recorded it yesterday. I said, once you listen to it, you will know what you're doing. So that's great to hear that. Each for 12G. Hey James, do you think 9 players are enough for blank game week 31? Yeah, I do. I think particularly if as long as you've got 6 from Liverpool Wolves, I really do. Yeah, that's fine. Don't bother your arse on Spurs. I'm telling you, don't get anyone from Spurs. Waste of time. You could pick someone they can return. Well done. Congratulations. On the day as a free hit, it's acceptable. If on that game you go, okay, I want to go Loris in goal. I want to go Aurea or Bergwijn or Lucas. It's a one-off. The one game is a home fixture. It's a London derby. It's acceptable. I wouldn't. literally no consideration to get any of them. I would buy West Ham players before Spurs in planning for that game week. So yeah, I think it's fine. I certainly wouldn't break myself to be getting the extra in from Spurs to make sure I got a full set for 31. Do not bother. James, with great pods this week. Thank you. Who would you like to see Spurs signing this summer to get you back on track? And who would you like to replace? He who picks the team. To answer your second question, anybody. It wouldn't be worse if I was in charge. My number one choice in terms of who to replace Mourinho would be Pochettino. Who would I like Spurs to sign? We have to buy a central midfield player. I've covered this a number of times, who is technically gifted, can run a football match, and also is defensively sound. Essentially, I'm describing an all-round footballer. We need one. We need someone who can complement it. Say if we're going to go with Harry Winks long term, we need someone who can complement the good things that Harry does in terms of his carrying the ball, his little bit of drive, his short passing, his retention of the ball. I think it's 90% pass completion this year is really high. It's a good footballer, Winksy, but he needs a player that would complement him well in that area. Fullback's a must. We need about 12 players. There's a lot that have got to go before the ins can come in. Little things like they got rid of Wanyama to go to Montreal Impact in a week. These little things have got to come off the books first, and especially the ones taking up sort of foreign registration of players. I'd go to Bayern Munich and say how much you want for Thiago. That's the first place I would start in terms of central midfielder. It might be that he'd be interested in a new challenge, but I think we'd have to finish top 4 for him to be interested in that. I can't see it happening. Why would you leave Bayern Munich anyway? But that's the sort of footballer we need. Neil Soper, the fact Salah might have a slightly more effective ownership this week is a plus. Yes, I agree with that. It's one of the things that really tempts me. If the double wasn't on, I think we'd all be captaining him together, and the effective ownership would be on a ridiculous level. So, yeah, it might even be sort of under the 100% and could be really big. You can't ask for much better than for Liverpool fixture and Bournemouth at home. Obviously, the breaking news I have seen is that Alisson is out of the game tomorrow, which is obviously a blow. It gives them more concerns defensively. Adrian, as seen by Williams' goal in the FA Cup, goes from the spectacular to useless in 0.1 seconds. There's no fault not to do Salah for me. Now, if I had Mane, by the way, I would go Mane. If I'd had Mane instead of Salah, I would go Mane as captain this week. I wouldn't hesitate. I'd feel exactly the same about it. Bournemouth are weak. They're ripe for hide-ins when they go behind and they start chasing the game. And not the sort of side that will just sit there and go, you know what, this has been a bad day. We'll take the 2-0 and get out of here. They will try to get back in the game because of their league position as well. So if it's a fixture, Liverpool and particularly Salah have obviously done very well in over the last couple of years as well. So it wasn't an issue for me to think otherwise. I think if he returns, a lot of us will be seeing big jumps early in the morning that we wouldn't normally see off of Mohamed Salah captaincy. Mega Zozo 82. Hey James, really want to make the moves of Sionku to Doherty, but is this week the best week considering Leicester's fixture against Villa? Thanks. I'd be keen there if you've only got the one free transfer to possibly hold on, unless the value is a stress for you on future moves. Now is not the time of season to be stressing on future moves. The move I made last night saw in for Traore. I did do it ahead of Adama Traore's price drop. But if I'd only had one free transfer, I would not have made that move last night because I need to wait on that team news first thing tomorrow morning. It's a major potential benefit. And I'm 99% sure of the move I'm making, but anything team news-wise today could potentially change that. Obviously, I know there's a lot of press conferences just kind of finishing around about now. So if you do hear anything press conference-wise that's of interest, such as Alisson's injury, please do get it in on the chat. Callum, I would to cover. I would probably, if you've got one free transfer, probably roll it. I'm not sure now is the best week. Callum Stokes asked you last week, and you thought Wolves would miss out on fourth because of the Europa distraction. After seeing us play in the flesh, do you think we could do both? Probably not. Can you? Yes. Probably not, because the squad hasn't got the experience of A, pushing for fourth, and B, obviously going deep in Europe. There are certain players there, like obviously João Moutinho, who obviously do have experience of playing at the top level. The majority of the squad won't. And I think to push on both fronts, if they get really close, to actually do both would be really challenging. Can they do it? Yeah, absolutely. I think they're a fantastic side. I said on one of the pods that I might have been Tottenham on Tuesday, they should finish fourth. Certainly when we go into game week 32, Wolves should be fourth in the league. They have to put that pressure on now if that's going to be achievable for them. I think it's close though, in terms of are they more likely to finish fourth or Europa. I'm really impressed with him. Structurally wise, he's a really good manager, Nuno. They lull you into security where you feel like you're playing well and they've got you. They're really well coached. Graph for City Figure, hello, Sheffield, appeal for help. If anyone's going to the Cheaters meet up tonight is able to collect a package from Adam Pritchard in Haringey to take to them, please contact Adam to arrange. Sorry to hijack your stream. I mean, that's spamming of the top level, Jeff, isn't it? What I would say is, if there's anybody out there in the London area and there's a bit of a loose end in terms of what they're doing tonight, come and have a beer with me. Because in about 4 hours from now, I'll be heading into London. Suja and I both will be to go and meet Brandon and Josh. We had the pleasure of meeting them. Well, it must be 18 months ago now. In Camden when they came over the first time. Delighted they're coming back. Great lads, really down to have. They've done a great little bit on that. I haven't seen the full thing, but they obviously went on the official FPL show recorded yesterday with Jules Breach and Jim Richardson, and the official account has actually tweeted a really lovely video of the two of them kind of talking about how they got to meet each other. Sleep with the same girl apparently, which I never knew. It was really nice to see something on there that was like, that's what I've always been screaming about, the people who go on the official account. You get this expert tag. There's never anything, who are you? Where are you? What is it about you? So it's really nice for me to learn something about them. They're, top of the tree in terms of what they do podcast. Well, and Tom's coming from Who Got the Assist, Adam beat Adam Pritchard tonight. We made FPL Chancellor Dan, who you may know from Twitter. There's quite a few people coming. Josh Paxman, lots of people coming. So come and have a beer. It's somewhere between kind of King's Cross and Farringdon. But if you look through the Always Cheating thread, you'll see the address. And by all means, if you want to get in my DM, I'm not going to post the address in here. But if you want to get in my DMs and ask me for the address, then yeah, give us a shout. To answer your question though, Jeff. You want someone to pick up a package from Adam to take them tonight. And what sort of a package? Who wants to be picking up packages for someone with all this coronavirus going on? Sorry, Jeff, you ain't getting anyone picking it up now, are you? Mark Bissoni. Are you the poor man's Ben Crellin? Yes, I am. Yeah, I absolutely am. Jeff Holt. Cheers, James. You're good, mate. Callum Stokes, thanks for the Charlie Taylor tip last week. Him and Jota in last week for a -4. 18 from the both of them when the whole of my team scored 32 was great. Listen, I'm good at this FPL lark. It's just my team's shit at it. That's just the way it goes. If you was asking me to be honest, the same questions you'd have been asking me last week, you're going to get the same answers. Go and buy them too. Charlie Taylor is the best. For those planning to 31, is the best available defender under 5 million right now, in my opinion. Even if you don't use him in 29 and 30, that's where I stand on it. Before was better because, obviously, like myself, I've had the use out of it last week at Newcastle and before. FPL Classico says hello. Hello, mate. How you doing? Thanks for the share of the pod this morning, pal. Lewis Whitson. Who would you bench out of Jack Stevens, Harvey Barnes, Siyunku, or Bulldog? Southampton to Newcastle, Leicester to Villa, Sheffield United to Norwich. Christ, shitty, isn't it? Probably Stevens, because a little bit like what I'd said at this time last week, a little bit of unknowns in terms of their setup at the match, just not quite right with like Redmond's injury and that. If you haven't got that sort of choice to make, he's an absolutely fine choice for this game week. Stevens, as is Ings, McCarthy, whatever. The flip of that is they're playing one of the weakest attacks in the league. I just don't feel you can have that trust in Southampton defensively like you can have in Sheffield United. Norwich are going to be shattered from Wednesday night. They were there for the taking for Spurs, and Spurs just didn't do it. Spurs didn't deserve to win the game. I would go Barnes and Soyuncu. I'd be keen to play the both. I think so. It's bench Stevens for me out of that. That's probably where I'd be at. And that's just a trust issue on Southampton. Dread FPL wishes everyone an afternoon. Afternoon, mate. Rajdeep. Hey, James, how are you? How was the FPL, mate? Do you mean the Manchester? It's a couple of weeks ago now, isn't it? Some points it feels like I'm still drinking at it, and other points it feels like it was months ago. The FPL meet was fantastic. There will be more. There will be plans probably following the FA Cup quarterfinals. Definitely, if Arsenal go out, we will probably do something FA Cup final day. I don't know if it will be outside of London. It might be a bit short notice, but we will be touring again. It was a brilliant day. FPL telling Josh, afternoon, James. Hope you're all well, mate. Just wanted to say, been loving these live streams, Q&As with yourselves. Appreciate it, mate. A year from now, mate, I'll have all them dancing graphics like Lee and Sam and Andy. Let's talk. But I think a lot of you just like me raw, innit? Put it in front of a camera and just talk shit. Rajdeep also says thoughts on Aguero instead of Auba. It's another one that falls in that line of, if it wasn't the double, would you be bothering for Aguero at Manchester United on Sunday? We don't have Sterling and Jesus, and they're competing for a place on the left. They both played at Sheffield Wednesday. We don't know where we stand. I suspect Aguero will play one of these fixtures. I suspect because of his record against them, that will probably be the Arsenal game, which is probably from the two, is probably what you want to hear. But no, actually, if I was buying one of the two this week, it would be Aubameyang, and that's because of what I said on the other side for Arsenal, with Brighton in 30 and Norwich in 32, for my strategy of, excuse me. Oh, sorry, not for my strategy. For those who are intending to free hit in 31, I think that's one where Auba falls into line for that strategy for those who are free hit in 31, doesn't so much for those who are not. Graf, thoughts on Sterling? It's just having a down period, isn't it? He's a top player. None of us don't think that he isn't. I think he's missing his mate Leroy Sané on the other side. I think personally he's more effective off the right. I think he's tried to develop his game technically, which he's done very well, by the way, over the last 3 or 4 years. As seen by a few goals he got coming in off the left and hitting the far post to the net on a few occasions last season. But I still feel you want him getting in behind. It just doesn't feel like he's been able to do that this season. I think he's had more penalty box touches than any other player, I think, and by miles. I'm sure that's a stat I saw the other week. But you just don't feel like the returns there. I've seen a few people messaging with FPL. Rich as well, I think he might be even gambling Sterling captain. I see someone else had messaged that Sterling captain. It might have been Andy Martin, possibly. And it's absolutely fine. There are no cans and can'ts, but Raheem Sterling right now doesn't feel a lot more than a gamble and something on instinct, an inner belief of knowing his quality that we're not really seeing at the moment. I would certainly prefer to go for Mahrez if I was buying personally. Noah Zari, I'm on wildcard and it feels liberating. Good for you, mate. Alex Abdallah. Now that Spurs are playing in game week 31, is anyone worth bringing in now? Thanks. No. Callum Stokes already made the move from Ings to Auba, had enough cash, debating now whether to move from Soyuncu to Bolly, which will give me another game week 31 player too. Or just play Soyuncu or play Taylor. There's nothing wrong with playing Soyuncu at Villa. There's nothing wrong with playing Charlie Taylor against Spurs this week either. Dan's coming in. Alisson out for a few weeks. I'd heard Dan that definitely out this week and obviously doubtful for Everton, but it's 10 days from now to Everton, so I wouldn't completely rule him out of Everton. But yeah, Liverpool are going to blow this league, aren't they? City are going to get them. I have to clarify, right? Because I can't see your faces. Nobody's taking that seriously, are they? Mickey Robbo, I'll have 8 players for game week 31. I'm feeling a wild card now because of this. Or would you save it for game week 31? Neither, pal. I'd save it for later. 8 players in 31 is fine, mate. You're going to be in a much better position than most. As someone messaged me yesterday when I've only got 9. Hang on, you've got 3 weeks. You only need 2 free transfers. What don't you like about it? You can actually make better what you've got as well. It's going to be absolutely fine to go 31 with less than 11 players. The key is make sure you've got the coverage of Liverpool Wolves. For the rest, you've still got to hit the differential, the Charlie Taylor or Ismaila Sarr or whatever. Some are going to hit, some are going to miss. Cover yourself, shield yourself with the Liverpool and the Wolves, guys. What no graphics? Did Trey, Sarr, Ings, Jota? I think that's Traore to Sarr, Danny Ings to Jota. Yay or nay? If you've done it, doesn't matter. You've done it. You made that choice. Don't regret it. You don't mind the moves. Personally, I would not have sold Danny Ings this game week's never been a consideration for me. But you've brought 2 very good players in if you're planning towards game week 31. FFI test that Dan. Afternoon, James. Hope you're good, mate. Who do you think will be the first teams to hit the beach? And if chasing rank, should we start captaining players who are playing against those beach teams? This time last year, if you'd have asked me that question, my first answer would have been Everton. And Everton were one of the best performing teams in the last 10 game weeks of last season. They had the 5 games in a row, didn't they, with the clean sheets. The last of which was Burnley, but they beat Chelsea, didn't they? Beat United, beat Arsenal, and they drew 0-0 with Liverpool. So I think we read too much into that. And I think as well, particularly this year, there's so little difference in quality between, say, West Ham fighting the drop and Palace, who are now probably just about safe, and then even still up to Burnley. And I think Burnley are in the top half at the moment. It must be. There's so little difference between those teams, really, that if they play each other 15 times, one will win like 6, the other will win 5, and it'll be like 4 draws or something. It's really close. So I'm not going to read too much into that at the moment, actually. The one thing we need to start thinking towards this time of season in terms of trying to maneuver the blanks, the doubles, is little things like just going for the more secure starter. If you haven't got that coverage, if your bench is weak, if your bench is still sitting there with Kelly, Lundstrom, Rico, 2 of those 3, for example, it's time for you to start thinking about something different. Now, that could be that Ngakia at West Ham at 4 million emerges as a nailed starter between now and game week 31. And then that's fine that he plays that week. And then afterwards, he becomes your 3rd sub. That's fine. But we want to be in a position coming into this period that those we've got doubts of, we eliminate it. At least those. Take an example like Traore. I think if he's fit, he'll genuinely still play. But is there enough doubt in your mind that you look at, say, someone like Ismaila Sarr, and on top of the fact, obviously, poor Delafeu picked up a bad injury last week, and I look at it and go, this guy is an absolute lock. And look through Watford's results in the little period that he's missed as well. Okay, so they've beat Liverpool. He's come back. He came back the week before and he didn't. I know that. But Watford's energies in terms of term results seem to come with him coming into the team. And the few bad results they've had seem to be with him missing as well. So he's having an impact, not just goals, assists, but on that team generally as well. So that's going to be personal choice. Like I know when I was saying last week that Traore would play at Spurs, I know most of the people would have been in complete disagreement with me. So you have to make your own decisions on that. Jota, for example, is an absolutely brilliant asset. He's worth getting at the moment. I think this week he's safe. But the following week, and also the Bournemouth fixture, I'd say there's no guarantee he's going to play. But remember in 31, for those of us who go with the main guys, and I think right now it's going to be free from Jota, Jimenez, Traore and Doherty. I think people will really go for Doherty. That if they miss out, we're all going to miss out together. It's not going to matter. That's people like me going towards 31. We're just trying to shield everybody else who's got the free week. Those who are free hitting in that week, I can't wait to see what they're going to do when Wolves go to extra time with Olympiacos. Inside 24 hours of the Friday deadline, you're probably going to get nothing from Nuno on the Friday in terms of recovery before that Bournemouth fixture. And they've all played. They've all played extra time against Olympiacos in Europe. What are you going to do with that free hit then? My advice would be do exactly the same thing. Doherty, Jimenez, Jota, and it will be what it will be. The reason I think Jimenez and Jota, I don't think I finished my point earlier, I think will be really strongly fancied 31 is the lack of good forward players in that game week. So obviously Firmino is an option for Liverpool, but I think the majority will have free from Mane, Salah, Trent, and Robbo. There will obviously be a few Alissons, a few Van Dijks. There's obviously a lot of Van Dijks sitting dead, and there's obviously quite a few who got Firmino. But it's mainly going to be from those four, I think. So you're not going to want Palace. Palace haven't got a centre forward. Cenk Tosun's gone back to Everton injured. You're not going to. I know Benteke has a decent record against Liverpool, but you're not going to put him in, right? You got Bournemouth at Wolves. You want to stick in Wilson or Josh King? Burnley against Watford. Deeney maybe. Do we know where we stand with? I think Chris Wood will probably come back into the Burnley team tomorrow. He came on quite early for Vidra at St James's Park. So I think that's what I said. Why it's going well, it will just keep him in. But I think that early change leads me to think Chris Wood will come back in with Rodriguez. And actually, Barnes is really close as well. And he's likely to be fit by the time 31 comes around. So that's a nervous. And then you got Tottenham and West Ham. Well, you can't pick a forward from Tottenham, even if you do want to pick a Spurs player, unless Parrott is suddenly in the team. And West Ham's Haller. So I think for free hitters, they'll all go Jimenez and Jota. And it might even be that it's 3-5-2s, 4-4-2s. I think a lot by default might end up with Haller, actually, particularly if Spurs continue to do well over the next couple of weeks. Parmjit Chohan, hey, first time on your channel, great concept, thanks mate. Just activated wildcard. Do I go for ×6 Arsenal and City and ensure remaining players don't blank in game week 31, or reduce numbers from double game week this week so got good balance? I would be tempted, if you're wildcarding now, I'd be tempted to hammer this City and Arsenal, I think. And what you got to do with your bench, I think, has got to have 3 players that you're going to want to have. And then in 31, it sounds like you're going to plan towards it rather than free hit. If that's the case, then you're going back again. You're looking at, say, Charlie Taylor at Burnley. Great sub to have. Perhaps Craig Cathcart at Watford. It's 4.3. Could be another one. They're good. Full 5th defenders. Sit on your bench. Maybe you don't want to play them this week. And there's others further forward. So I would be looking for a bit of balance. Obviously, if you go to 6, you're going to really struggle for an 11 for 31. Because you're still going to want some from the teams that are playing this week who are not playing in game week 31, such as Southampton maybe, or Sheffield United, or Leicester on Monday evening. There's a number of good fixtures this game week. I would try and fit in as much as I could City, Arsenal with Liverpool, Wolves, and then the bench pretty much being a makeup of Burnley and Watford. So you probably need to balance. It's probably one where if you're thinking Sterling, for example, actually going with a Mahrez and making that saving and spreading so you've got a better spread is probably the way to go. That would be my thinking. It could be great for you. I think you're going to have a headache between now and 31, but I wish you well. JB 1017, would you sacrifice Barnes away to Villa? Was it home to Villa or Matt Doherty this weekend? I don't think I'd ever leave Matt Doherty out. Definitely play Doherty. I don't see how you could leave him out. Great fixture. The thing with Doherty for me, comparing to, say, Traore, is it felt like Traore really needed 2 returns in a game to be getting a double pointer, and they were coming sporadically in some tougher fixtures. Obviously, Spurs at home, Manchester City home and away, Liverpool only had the assist, Southampton away. In a lot of these easier ones, at best he was getting like 1 assist. Doherty in a fixture like this needs a goal, and he'll power past straight, or he'll hit in the bonus because the amount of chances creating now might fall up the pitch is getting. If he hits the clean sheet as well, suddenly you're looking at like 14, 15 pointers if he has a return or two. He is the most capable behind Trent and Robbo of those defensively, I think, to be hitting double point hauls. So I would not be leaving Doherty out. Danny McDonald, mass rotation versus Burnley. Sure, is that Danny? Spurs tomorrow, Manchester City next week, or Watford in game week 31? Obviously, won't be Watford in 31. I think for City, yes, there could be. I think for Spurs tomorrow, that team is going to be an absolute mess. It will be the 11 fittest players will be on the pitch, an absolute mess. I don't know where to begin with it. Parrott's got to play, in my opinion. I think he's going to have to play on Ndombele. He's going to have to play Jedson Fernandez. Alderweireld will come back in. I assume Ben Davies and Tanganga will come back in, probably with Oreo right back. That's probably your back four, if he plays the back four. Harry Winks will probably play, came off early in extra time. I think probably going to have to play with Ndombele. If he can get a start out of Lamela, that would be a huge positive. So you might be looking at sort of Lamela, Ali, Parrott, Jedson. It's possible. No Lucas or Bergwijn tomorrow is really possible. They were so. I know they only played the 50 minutes or so on Wednesday. Lucas, you could tell after half hour he was panting. I think what's happened with him is you get mental and physical fatigue. So he's a quick player. He likes running with the ball. But he's also, even if you go back to like, probably all the way back to when he first joined Paris Saint-Germain from Brazil, since that first season, he's regularly been not playing 90 minutes. So he might play 3 times a week and he's only playing 200 minutes, for example, which is only slightly more than 2 games. And obviously, since he's come to Spurs, his minutes have been managed at times very sporadic. And now suddenly you're expecting him to lead the line and play 90 minutes often. I think he's mentally and physically shattered at the moment, Lucas. I think he needs a break. I don't know what the Spurs boys did in between the defeats at Chelsea and at home to Wolves, because that should have really been the break. And obviously we're playing Leipzig on Tuesday. Now, the chances of us turning it around in Leipzig are 10%. Very, very unlikely. But he's going to have to consider that in his team selection as well, isn't he? Because Leipzig could tear us a new one on Tuesday. And if you go to Turf Moor and you ain't up for it, you're going to get beat again. I expect Burnley to turn us over tomorrow. Paul Meehan, rare for me to be able to catch a stream at 9 a.m. Happy to be here. Great final plan this week, Chance. Thank you, Paul. Thanks for joining the chat. Will Bottomley, thanks a lot for the answer. Really helpful. Another question is, Otamendi worth bringing in for this double game week and next week against Burnley? Yes, possibly. I said if I was going to take the strategy of diving into City and Arsenal, I think beyond the obvious of De Bruyne or Aubameyang, I think Otamendi probably would just about have been my first choice there, actually. Yeah. There's a chance he'd only play 2 games, but for a lot of them, there's a chance he'd only play 1 game with Madrid looming after game week 30 as well. Thomas Jacobs, with only 5 certain starters, Rico and Tanganga are uncertain. Would you free hit in 31? Use my 2 FT already this game week. So that's to take you up to 5, is it, Thomas? I'm going to assume. That's probably close where you want to do it. Rico's unlikely to get minutes. I could see Tanganga potentially up against Antonio and Allaire. Whoa. Tough call. Davinson Sanchez will certainly play that fixture. If you want a lock Spurs defender, I'd be amazed. If it's Antonio and Allaire up front for West Ham, I'd be amazed if Sanchez is not one of them. And then, I mean, it's Alderweireld's Vertonghen or Tanganga then for the other spot. I don't think he wants to play Sanchez and Tanganga together in a back 4, because I don't think there's any form of communication or leadership there at the moment. They're both decent defensively. So that would probably lead me to think that probably no Tanganga won't play in 31 as well. Therefore, you're potentially in a spot. It really depends what that 5 are, because if you say to me, okay, I've got Salah, Mane, Trent, Jimenez and Doherty, for example, then I'd still look at that and go, it's not too bad, you know. I think you could potentially get away with 7, 8-ish for 31. I really do. You got to look at what your other situation. Where are you for this week? Where does it leave you in 32? What's your thoughts for 34 if this double game week does happen with, I don't know, 3 teams doubling, for example? Do you have the wild card left? Is it your intention to bench boost in 37? Everybody's circumstance will be different. It really depends what the makeup of those players is, Thomas. Hey, James, Ings and Traore to Justin Saar for -4. Can I get away with it? Well, of course you can get away with it. And there's a chance with that you'll get the returns over a little sustained period, but you may not see the immediate impact of that this week. I'd look at the idea of -4 Danny Ings at home to Newcastle. And what if you do it, and then unlikely as it may seem, I think he is a lock this week. Jota doesn't play. I mean, wow. I would not be -4 in that now. Can you go Traore to Jota in 1? Or can you make the same moves next week for 2 free transfers? Plenty to think about there. Danny McDonald tempted to bring in Pepe and Aguero. Aggressive play with a good potential upside. I highly recommend catching up with yesterday's Clash of the Correspondents. Was on Arsenal West Ham with 350 and FI_FPL at 123 Arsenal West Ham correspondents, and we talked quite a bit about fullback positions between the two teams. Adam, Arsenal correspondent, talked a bit about Bellerin's really lost a yard of pace. Not so much saying he's struggling, but he needs some time at the moment. And obviously that same flank, Pepe's playing ahead. And West Ham has Sujad highlighted, and Chris, our West Ham correspondent, highlighted again. There is an issue there at left back at the moment. And the real gamble punt this game week for me would be Pepe. I wouldn't want to own him at all, but I could see him returning in that fixture against West Ham tomorrow. I can see that. If you're going to dive into Arsenal and City, be aggressive about it, is what I'd say. Particularly those who, there are a number, as I spoke about in the pod this morning, who are considering a free hit now. And I don't hate it. But if you're going to do it, be aggressive about it. There's a few people have messaged back sort of like Salah's, Mahrez's or Aubameyang's, and they can't afford Salah. I don't mind that. If you're going to free hit it, be aggressive about it. And I think if you don't make half-hearted transfers if you're doing it. Like someone said last week, oh, if it's a double game week, what about Gundogan and Rodri? Forget that. Go for the boys that could batter it, or don't bother. I have decided I'm not going to bother. What? No graphics. Who's your fave, Alan? I would say Paul. I grew up with Paul Allen as part of the 91 team. I didn't see Clive Allen play for Spurs. I think Clive Allen would probably be the majority. If you ask my dad, my dad would maybe say Les Allen, actually, from the 60s team. So Paul Allen for me. He's such a hard worker, really limited ability, but you could have 11 of him on the pitch. He'd work his nuts for you. And he loved Spurs. And he's still at Spurs most games now. FPL Classico, what's your view on Alonso's FPL potential to bring in now? I don't mind it. Very, very circumstantial. I think it's one for free hitters of 31 is really interesting, possibly. Hudson-Odoi has been ruled out for a bit longer. Apparently he's had a setback. Willian and Pedro are not particularly performing. See, Pedro straight away on Tuesday night. Where's his pace gone? And Pulisic's been out as well, which is kind of forced on this three at the back. It's worth saying they've got more midfield options now than we thought they had, because I thought Jorginho's got a 2-game ban and Kante is injured. When I saw Jorginho wasn't playing still, well, I thought, what is that? Are you mad? He's going to miss the next 2 league games anyway. I don't know if Kovacic might have picked up a knock as well, but the young Scottish lad, Billy Gilmore, he had a weldy, didn't he? He looked such a good player. Loftus-Cheek is getting closer. So I think at some point they're going to move back into that 4 at the back. But at the moment he's in, isn't he? And for a short term, he's a great shout. If he's going to play every week, we'd all pick him. And we wouldn't pick him for none of the defensive shit. It'd be it's what the capability is. I don't mind it. I think if you're free hitting 31, I would maybe consider that if I was on that route. Jumped a load in the chat here. Bear with us a moment. Me and technology, guys. Oh, look how many fucking comments are in here. I better start moving a bit quicker, aren't I? Black Cat Brothers. Hey, James. -4 for Vardy and him, Auber and Jota. Free hitting 31 for me. Take it you want to take Jimenez out for Jota as part of a Fording or Aubameyang. Nah, blood. Nah, can you find another way of just going like Vardy to Aubameyang? No. And I wouldn't even be that keen on that. Looks like Vardy's probably going to play Monday. But I can understand the frustration. If you've held and then that's why I sold last week once we got the news on the Friday. If you don't play Monday as well, you are thinking, what have I been doing? Joe Finney, bad afternoon, James. Have Alisson in Sky. Thinking of moving to Ederson. Get it done. I might be buying Ederson for Sky. Having said on Wednesday's Sky podcast that I wouldn't fuck about with Henderson. Having thought about it more, there's a real good game there potentially. So yeah, I think in that game, not to cover it in too much detail now, but Liverpool to City, get them done. Get it happening. Depending on obviously your transfer account. Stuart Bell, haven't seen much Arsenal recently. Saka getting forward enough to make him a genuine option. Minutes-wise, he looks a safe bet for the next 4 or 5 games. I would suggest he's not a safe bet for the next 4 or 5 games. Kieran Tierney's very close for Arsenal. Obviously, Kolasinac has got an injury now as well. Again, I'd recommend right near the end of Thursday's podcast with Adam, listening to him talk about Saka. He kind of suggested it as very much it's fine as a 5th midfielder, but it might not last. And if you're doing it to get him in and playing for this double just for the sake of the fact that it's a double, my question to you would be, who are you leaving out? Because if you're leaving out one of these guys who's got a great fixture this week, I wouldn't go anywhere near it. Edwin Guan, definite clean sheet for Burnley on Saturday night. Yeah, probably. Sean Govia, should I sell Ings? No. Let's talk FPL. Andy, the king of streaming. How are you, mate? James, I need to know the exact chip strategy that every manager should use. There's only one right way. Slide in my DMs afterwards, mate. I've got a sheet of paper which has every single possibility permutation of which game can move to where, this, that, and no. I'm just a human being like the rest of us. And Andy asked his question very much in jest. And I know that, my friend. I believe strongly that bench boost should be played in game week 37. Other than that, do whatever you like with it. Do what is best for you. There is no favoured strategy as such this year. There are a lot of different ways to play it. The way I'm playing it could be very, very wrong for you. And you've got to remember that. Mega Zozo, thanks, James. No pros. Rowan, hi, James. Are you considering McCarthy to Pope before game week 31? I am. I'm also considering Ben Foster, actually, of Watford, because Watford have some nice fixtures beyond the game week 31 as well. So that's a possible. I might even add, depending on the financials, just bin out Stekelenburg and go with the 2 for a little while, like Pope and McCarthy or Foster and McCarthy. And one of the reasons with that is it kind of makes sense to get Pope now, but I would want to play McCarthy over Pope this week. And I definitely want to play Pope's away to Man City next week. I definitely want to play McCarthy next week, as long as he stays in the team. They've got Norwich away. So it doesn't feel like a force. It feels like an on the day. And it might be that I go to Pope because, again, it's just a good shield as against, he's going to be a very popular goalkeeper in that. Most who free hit will go with Pope, I should imagine. So it might be the shield, but I might go Ben Foster, actually, when it comes around. What no graphics did trade to Sar Ings to Jota? What do you think? Yeah, you've done it. Doesn't matter once you've done it. Opus out in public in London. Yeah, terrific, mate. Yeah, we'll be out on the piss tonight. You can come. You can join us. Hamid, hey James, should I keep KDB for the coming double game week? I think he might play at least one match. Well, yourself, man. That's sell. Ahmed's right in there underneath. KDB's a season keeper, mate. He's not necessarily a season keeper. And I don't mind if after Burnley people sell, actually, depending on circumstance. I think after game week 30 is something we're going to talk about again. FPL Miller, right, James, just seen a stat that says, I don't want to say it. Since Jose came to Spurs, he has the 4th best results in the league. Since you have key players missing, do you think this bodes well for the future? No, what bloody moan. Or would you still not be bothered if he was sacked? I wouldn't be bothered. Look, if I was an outsider looking in, I would go, it's obviously injuries. For me, it's not an excuse. Just get on with it, right? It's not like you haven't got good players there. But I would look in and go, if I was judging, say he was at Arsenal and he'd been without, I don't know, let's say Aubameyang and say Pepe was firing like something, Aubameyang, Pepe, and you go, all right, that's a blow. That's difficult to manage. And then you consider that he's walked him to shit. Yeah, okay, it's difficult to manage. Does he deserve at least till Christmas to try and sort it out himself? Yes, that is what I would say. Yes, he does. That said, I can see down the road, I can see a clear plan coming together from Arteta. I can see that how he wants his team to play football. I have no idea what identity Spurs have at the moment. And if we're going to be shit, let's at least be shit and go down fighting, right? I don't mean physically relegated. I just mean go down fighting. Yeah, can we talk about something else? It's really, really grim, mate. But I'll still be there tomorrow in the boozer shouting them on, mate. I definitely wasn't going up for that one, though. Fuck that, mate. Okay. Andy's back. No, not press conference, actually. That I don't think it was Jan. Okay. Chat FBL. Would you approve of this for a hit? Martial plus Sidibe to Doherty to Sarr. Not planning any chips in game week 31. I would. I think that's a decent one. What no graphics did trade science? Yeah, did that one. John Harris. Bench one from DCL, Ings, Barnes or Van Dijk, please. DCL, Ings, Barnes or Van Dijk. Barnes. Graph Vasily. Nice headphones. Is it the same as Manchild's? Wouldn't have a clue. Sujan Shah, who would win a fight out of you and Eric Dyer? Listen, me and Usage, we could turn up as a tag team and Eric Dyer would take both of us, mate. Let's talk FPL. Better question. Who would win in a race to the top of the stands? That Spurs, the 82 rows. You'd have to stop at halfway, mate. If it was between me and Suj. Do you know what? Because I might have a shot, you know. I don't know how quick he is. He's obviously got the stamina over longer distances. I used to be fit in my day. The one thing with me is I won't give up. I won't give up. But I suppose he probably would if you were asking about me and Suj. Ahmed Ashmoy wins the live chat this afternoon for writing "fuck off, Suj." Yes, Suj. Where are ya? Where are ya? Let's be having ya. Love you, mate. FPL telling Josh, if you already had 7 players for 31, would you see a transfer in of Aubameyang Pepe this week for FC and still aim for 10 in 31 or max of -4? I know this question is really team strategy dependent. It is. I don't mind that. It's not essential to have 11 for 31. Not essential. We're shielding against it. For those of us who are not doing it, get the guys in to shield you. That's all you need. Like a differential or two, you know, if on the day, like, I don't know, Will Hughes scores twice, who's going to have it? You still got to pick the right one when you're picking from Watford, Burnley and all that. Red Devils 82 DCI, James. Any Spurs assets for recommendation at the moment? My God, mate. You need to A, follow me on Twitter, B, listen to all the podcasts. I wouldn't go near them, mate. FPL Chancellor, hi mate. Looking forward to tonight. Yeah, we'll have a. That didn't come out right, did it? We'll have a beer in a minute. Great work on the final plan. Agree. Embrace the chaos. Yes, I love a bit of chaos. Andy says, I'm sat waiting for my son to come out of school. There's a field full of long grass. No one goes in. There's a guy practicing shot out there. Oh, well, it's Ireland, Andy. These things are a bit different. Jeff McGregor, Jimenez is a consistent one or Jota the explosive one? This is an interesting one. I think if you've not got either, I would maybe go Jota first and see how it looks. Jimenez is so reliable. Like if you're struggling on chip strategy, put him in, just leave him there every week for the season. It doesn't matter. I appreciate the random info there, Andy. Thanks for that. Pumpkin Drublick, someone babosh you. Yeah, I'm always drunk in public, mate. Bob, did you reckon Spurs would lose on penalty? Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, when you go into a penalty shootout, I tend to judge it on the goalkeepers. I'm not even bothered in terms of the capability of takers. I look at the goalkeepers. I know obviously Tim Krul is historically a very good penalty taker, not just this season, but for Holland. If you think back to the 2014 World Cup, I don't know why Michel Vaughan played the other night, because as much to criticise Gazzaniga is much better than Vaughan. The first penalty save from Norwich looked like a good penalty. I'm not seeing it back on the telly. Ours were atrocious. Yes, I didn't think we'd win. Jeff McGregor, Mahrez and Bruno Fernandes or De Bruyne at 7.5 million mid. Is difficult, that, Jeff. Need a little bit more context potentially. Depends, right? Because I'm just going to say, oh yeah, we'll go De Bruyne and Ismail Assar or something, for example. It really depends on where you're aiming towards. I probably prefer the De Bruyne and a 7.5 to sum up. Just Taylor, would you have KDB in a free hit team if it was active this week? 100%. Yes, I would. But I've seen a few not taking that strategy who are doing it, and I don't mind it. It's properly aggressive. I don't hate it. I can see the thinking, but yeah, I could go out. I mean, even from my perspective as well, the saving of money, the fact that I bought him at 9.7 is going to get me a better 0.5 player somewhere else as well, potentially. Ronan Mehigan, hi James, how many more game weeks are you going to give Maddison? It's a bloody good question. Who's on your radar as a replacement? Dwight McNeil, Antonio for game week 31. Dwight McNeil's probably not. Having looked a bit more at his numbers and spoke to Jack following Burnley's win against Bournemouth for Turfy Topper. Antonio would probably be the favourite for me if I'm covered up with Liverpool Wolves. I'm not against the idea of adding Decore to Ismail Assar. It's another name I'd throw in there. And Ashley Westwood, possibly. He's still on 8 yellows. He's got to get through this week without a booking. And then he's safe for 31. I don't think he got booked last week. So he could get suspended. He's a no-no till he's safe. I think I'll end up with Antonio. Jeff Holt trivia. Can you name the England 1-2-11 who started the 5-1 win over Germany, and who was the Germany goal scorer? The Germany goal scorer was Carsten Janka. The team was David Seaman, Gary Neville, Ashley Cole, Stephen Gerrard, Rio Ferdinand, Sol Judas Campbell, David Beckham, Paul Scholes, Emil Heskey, Michael Owen, and Nick Barmby is the one that everybody forgets played in the 5-1 win in Germany in 2001. What a night that was. Sultan Saeed, surprising they're going with him. He hasn't even had a goal or assist yet in 2020. Who's that, mate? Who is that? Hamid, with Alisson out, do you still think Liverpool defence a viable option? Listen, I had it every week all season, mate. I suffered with Adrian early in the season. It's short-term injury, isn't it? Short-term. I think it's not beyond possibility that I could make the switch and force him. This is what I talk about, maybe moving off De Bruyne in 30. And then for the Bournemouth fixture, maybe going De Bruyne to Mane, Robertson down to something cheaper for a hit if it's looking problematic. I suggest I'll just stick with it. And season keepers, we stuck through it, and then obviously they've had this amazing run. I know what you're saying, but those guys in at those prices are, for me, it's just so consistent that I'm happy to stick with it. I don't have a major issue with that. So I will almost definitely stick with it. Should Robertson get injured, for example, I wouldn't go to Van Dijk. At that point, I would then force in Mane to go with Salah. I think that's the way I would go to sum up. Mr. Anderson says, don't need fancy graphics. How could you have fancy graphics with this face? Your live shows are great in the way it is now, man. You think Taylor and Gakio are a great choice from now to the end of the season? I think Gakio is really one to watch. He's really one to watch. And I don't think you'd ever start him because it's West Ham. But I think he's possibly emerging as a safe lock, 4.0. Frederick's out for a while. Zabaleta is near on finished. But we need to see a little bit more to feel safe, I think. Charlie Taylor's great. He's a really good young left back. He'll get better. I think if he's 4.5 at the start of next season, I'll start him next season. I'd say that now. And he's a good player. Notorious Nerd, can Salah be a good captain this game week, considering I only have KDB as a double game week player? Of course he is, mate, because I'm captaining Mohamed Salah and sound like I'm in the same position as yourself. Mr. Sucker, to all people watching you, well, there's always one or two, isn't there? But thanks for coming. You're here. You're in the chat. Dan says, Klopp said that the should be fine for after the international break, left out of Brazil squad, so he could miss the Everton game as well. Oh, I wouldn't fancy them keeping the clean sheet at Everton if he's out, I must say. The FPL Chris Packet, afternoon. Hello, mate. I'm well, and yourself? Red Devils 82. You think I've slimmed down? I did a little bit. Over January, and I've put it all back on again, I think. Lots of late nights taking care of Harry. I sleep in less. You probably see that. Nicholas Stolliver afternoon James. Does Vardy and Mane out? Auber and KDB in makes sense. It's not for me. I mean, I guess it makes sense. You're getting an extra game out of the pair. I can see the thinking. It wouldn't be for me. The FPL Chris Packet. Anyone seen Alisson's injured for Liverpool is not available? No clean sheet. Yes, we've seen it. Chris Packet says Antonio. Yeah, I'm hearing it. John Harris says hi, Charlie. I don't know who Charlie is, but hello. Oh, I guess Charlie's FPL Chris Packet. I learned something every day here. Salt and Sade. A lot of elite FPL regulars are here. What's up? Hey, how you doing? Love them guys. They're so good. I saw Steve-O tweeted. He tweeted a picture the other day of him wearing, I forget what the slogan was on the T-shirt. But anyway, he tweeted it out and it was back to front. He was taking a selfie. So I just screenshotted it and turned it around and said, fixed it for you. I love it. I love it. They're great, man. They're really good, the elite guys. I keep saying we will do something together soon. But thanks for joining in. That's great, guys. Do give the guys my regards. I got a lot of love from them. John Harris says, yeah, just got after night shift doing some FPL research. These guys are having their own little chat. I'm going to skip that there. Oh, these are the elite boys, obviously. Dread FPL, I really like the Fornell shout. Just worried about who really has that position in midfield. Rands for choice. Snodgrass has been carrying a bit of a knock. I think West Ham will probably go the same at Arsenal tomorrow. Chris said on yesterday's correspondence pod, in fact, it might have been Sush said it early in the week about feeling that Moyes doesn't really want to play Fornells. So I wouldn't go anywhere near that. They're more in the know than me on that. But I thought the assist for the third goal last week was lovely. Mr. Anderson, hey, James, one more question. You think Bowen is worth the extra cash, or should I go with a safer pick of Sarr? No, Ismail Sarr first for me, particularly with the fixtures this game week. Chris Packett's, he's done -4. Ings and Vardy, Jota and Aubameyang, no missing about. Notorious Nerd says, which is better, wild card in 32, free hit 34, bench boost 37, or wait till 36? I'll be waiting for 36. Can't be having that distance between wild card and bench boost. Just a personal. And if you haven't heard this morning's podcast, game week 34 could become an absolute mess. Dread FPL, James, aside from Antonio, who from West Ham should we be looking at? Because they look like they'll fight all the way and there are points on offer. I think there's a number, actually, who you shouldn't consider this game week, but could be on our radar. So Flappy is still a decent shout. And Gakia, he said Diop's 4.3 is providing a bit of a goal threat. I think Bowen, yes, is someone that I'll want to keep an eye on with Antonio. And Allaire played really well at the weekend. And I've already said about teams who are going to free hit in 31, not having many forward options. So there's a few quietly that we can keep an eye on. Just importantly for West Ham as well, actually to go back to your Fornells point, I heard that Souček could be back tomorrow. And that could mean a system change that means Fornells doesn't play, actually. Thomas Watting, Gazaniga. He's better than Vorm. He just said the question. He's better than Vorm and a lot worse than Loris. Switchbone says, appreciate live streams like Extra Pod. Cheers. Yeah, it's cool, man. We do. I'm sorry, I can't promise you and say I'll do it at 2 o'clock every Friday. It really is dependent on the little one and his sleep pattern. Brandon Madrono's Villa vs Sheffield United being played in game week 31 still a possibility? No, it's impossible. Sheffield United will play Arsenal in the FA Cup quarterfinals now. The most likely game week for Villa Sheffield United in terms of a midweek fixture remains game week 34. And that's because of what I mentioned on the podcast this morning about this possibility of, as the fixtures lay out now, the Thursday in the double game week of 34, there's only 2 games that can go there. One is that Villa Sheffield United. The other is Crystal Palace and Chelsea. So I think if Chelsea don't go through, there's a strong possibility that Villa and Sheffield United will go on the Thursday night of double game week 34, which, depending on what Sheffield United do in the FA Cup, then has knock-on effects. So should Sheffield United lose to Arsenal, in theory, then it's a double game week of Wolves at home and Aston Villa away, which is not fantastic. That's Wolves at home, Villa away, if I said that the wrong way around. It's not fantastic, but it would be enough for me to go, yeah, do you know what? I'm having 3 of them on a free hit. Thank you very much. Now, obviously, if they beat Wolves, then that could go in there as a single game week. And then you're looking at them having to possibly play. They'd have rearranged fixtures with Wolves and Manchester United, which can't work. I just figured that out. It's literally just dropped on my head. That obviously, if Wolves and United kept going in Europe, they can't play that in 35 or 36 or something. Obviously, they could if they went out. So this is why there's so many possibilities still in terms of what can happen. I suspect Villa and Sheffield United will end up in game week 36 as a standalone. That's what I think will probably end up happening. Either that or the Thursday in game week 34 is a possibility. I think you're looking at one or the other rather than 37 for that particular fixture. Nothing can get added to game week 31 now. Those 4 fixtures will stay as they are. Aaron Lager, what are your thoughts on Alonso? Fixtures are great and his returns ridiculous when he plays. Yeah, kind of covered it a little bit earlier, Aaron. I think for those for those using the free hit in game week 31, I think that's reasonable. I think it's okay. A great differential, obviously. Daniel Haymore, hey James, love to see the cheaters on the FPL show, even though poor Josh was so nervous. I think it's about time the producers give you such a call. The thing is, right, this face, can they deal with it? Oh, I don't think they can. I don't think they want it. I think they're very conscious of the amount of listeners and viewers they've got. I don't think they want this face. I don't think they want this audio either. I don't think they trust me to go on there and not swear. I am capable. Let's go through the rest of the stream without swearing. I nearly swore. Yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate you, but it's not the sort of thing I'm going to ask for. But thank you, mate. Sort of saying, Chris, had a decent mood getting a free hit in 31. They're having their own shout. I love this shit. The problem is you're ruining my stream, guys, but in a good way. It's all right. Martin Lancelot, current rank 20k with 1 free hit, so no real need to gamble. If late team news says Mane will be benched, would you bang Sterling? I don't really bang Sterling. Bang Sterling in, given doubts about KDB. No, I think I'd be more inclined to. Let me put it this way, right? I'm a Salah owner. And I have Robertson and Trent. You might be in a position where you've got Salah and Mane. It's quite difficult. But for me, if I see that team tomorrow and Salah's not in it, I'm buying Mane and I'm captaining Mane. That's what I will do. For Mane having played at Chelsea, I can understand why you're a little bit nervous about that, maybe, because obviously they play Atletico on. It isn't until Wednesday as well, so it should be fine. And he actually probably needs game to rebuild up his fitness, having missed those couple of weeks for injury. So I don't think it's a concern. But if you could afford it, I'd go straight to Salah. That's what I would do. If you've got both, I can understand that's an issue. And I think 2 games then of a Manchester City asset will very much appeal. I would, however, go Mahrez before Sterling. I'm assuming you already own KDB. Alex Tyke says, hey, James, thanks for the pod this morning. So keep KDB on wildcard. Where do I get 1.9 million from? Pope, Leno. Do you need Pope and Leno? Taylor, Gomez, TAA, Cathcart, Doherty, KDB, Salah, Sarr, Pepe. Hey, ditch Pepe, man. Sod that shit. But I understand if you want a wild card him, you probably want it for this double game week. Yeah, there's too much. You might need to sacrifice something like Sarr for a 4.5 and come back to it. I would say, looking at that. This is a good one, though. Chris Pack says, looks like he's getting Antonio for 31. Looked really good and pretty much playing up front. He's a midfielder in game. Plus, he's scored the last 2 games against Spurs as well. That is factually correct as well. He's saying free hit 34. That's where I'm at, Chris Packett. Mr. Anderson saying hello to his friend Sultan. You're having a little chat. And Jesus, how many questions left? Right, I'm going to start skipping a lot of these guys because I'll never get through it otherwise. FPL Penguin, thoughts on Jota, done that, buy him, brilliant. Antonio Rogers, Murray's a good pick. In fact, I'm going to go through these from the bottom. Don't put any more questions in, guys, so I can cover anyone else. Daylon sees if I can go rest of the stream without swearing too much shit. Did I really? Oh, I'm terrible. Sorry. Rich D says, yeah, let's get through it with no abuses. Alex Q, hi James. Curious those postponements cannot be scheduled for game with 31, 36 midweek. For who's not involved in Euro Cup. Would they have Europa League fixtures, obviously, if they continue to progress in Europe? That's why the idea is for the fixtures to go into 34, 37. They're the only midweeks left with no European fixtures other than the international break between game week 31 and 37. But actually, says with 5 players, including Bergwijn, bench him this week and keep him for 31 or sell for Pepe. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm not convinced on Pepe. I'm really not. But if you listen to COTC yesterday, you'll want to buy him. And I have to respect the opinion of my correspondents. And yes, I think he could return tomorrow. It's just his value is not something I'd want in my FPL squad coming outside of the game week. Yeah, sod it. Sell Bergwijn and get Pepe. Antonio says, Murray's good pick. I have no City coverage at the moment. Yeah, I think it's fine. FPL Krengen, thoughts on Jota? Yeah, do it. Balazzi says, keep some crap Maximin on, move on. Move on. If you can get to sort of SARS price, they're not too far away, are they? I don't think. We might be about 0.8 in it. Colin Conn got skipped in DH. Can you send some bog roll to Oz, jokes aside? Bench Grealish, Traore or Siyunku. How many hits are for game week 31? I can get 10, including Rico and Traore, free transfers. He's a -4. Okay, Traore to Jota. Yeah, I think it is actually. But if you can do it a bit later at freeze, then do it. There's a theory with the Wolves guys that hold what you've got to as late as possible. Say I've already made that move to kind of get Doherty in for Traore via 2 transfers, obviously. That hold what you've got till late, and then if you want to move it about late. There might be something in that. What no graphics? Do you remember Terry Fennec? I do remember Terry Fennec. Shit. Was probably better at maybe Palace or wherever he was before QPR. It was probably better for them. He scored against Spurs in the 82 final, didn't he? He was all right. He had bad injuries in his later spell at Spurs. It was a decent penalty taker, if I remember right. But yeah, he wasn't great. I hope it's not like your family or something, because now I'm just feeling bad. FPL Classico, regarding double Liverpool defence, I wouldn't go that way. Not only they haven't been looking as solid as they used to, they conceded 8 goals in their last 4. They play versus Everton, strong attack next week. Yeah, I know. Dave Pimpernel, start Moura or Dean? Dean. Listen, doesn't matter. Whatever the Spurs question is, just start the other one. Godwin Alpha. Alison's out. Yep, we're out of the CL then. I hadn't thought about that prospect. That's a massive blow, obviously, not just tomorrow, but for the week. 1 Atletico away goal, and yeah, that's big, isn't it? If he's going to miss the Atletico game. Oh, it's Liverpool. You always do your thing. Don't give it the old, we ain't won the league yet, or we can't do this. Miracles happen at Anfield, don't they? So people keep telling me. Jeff Holt says this is how far behind the chat I am. Well, that was fast, just so I can try to give you a badge. How far back does your footy knowledge go? I'm probably not going to get through any more questions, Jeff, because it's an hour and quarter in now. My football knowledge goes back to really 1990, but for things like World Cup, FA Cup finals and that, it'll go back further if I remember it and have seen it. I've been going to Spurs every week, so August will be 30 years. I haven't missed a game until coronavirus interrupts me. I think that's a good excuse if I'm not allowed to go. So it goes back to 1990, really. Italian 90 is a little bit hazy for me, but I've seen so much of it, obviously, back on the telly. Red Devils at 8-2 DC. If Delhi is not banned in 31, surely he's a brainer versus leaky West Ham United at home, right? Top four still with insights for sure, right? No, and no again. If you want positive answers on Spurs, definitely disappear somewhere else until we've won a game of football. So ask me again if we've won at Burnley, and I can tell you what was good or bad. I'll probably say that Burnley was shit. Notorious Nerd, which teams have a possible double game week in 34? There are 10 teams who can't double. All of the other 10 could. Ranging from the incredibly unlikely, which is probably Leicester and Brighton, probably the lowest chance of those who could have a game week, a double game week 34. I think the most likely is Sheffield United, personally. I know Ben Crellin said earlier in the week he thinks probably Everton. But he's repeated on Twitter this afternoon, and it's not because of me. In fact, last night he did, and we'd recorded yesterday afternoon. But he said exactly what I said on the pod about I'd make, say, Sheffield United favourites, but I would rank their chance for a double game week in 34 as under 50%. So I'm just going on fag packet maths here and say, right, they're playing Arsenal. It's probably a 50-50 game in the Cup quarter final. If they go out for them, because they've got the Villa game to rearrange as well, Sheffield United and Wolves is locked for that weekend. They will definitely have a 34 double. Almost certainly. And that's why. So it's not. But they've got half a chance of beating Arsenal, right? To beat Arsenal, then the Wolves game's off, and they can't. So I think that's likely. I know what Ben meant when he said about Everton and Norwich, because the one I didn't mention on the podcast is basically because of Norwich. So Norwich are likely to lose to Manchester United in terms of bookies odds and all that. I've obviously got a chance. I've got a decent record at Carrow Road in some of these fixtures as shown last Friday night. But if they lose to United, they've got the Everton game to rearrange. Now, that's the one that kind of contradicts the idea of no double 34. It will go in 34 or 37, and there's no logic to which week it could go in. It really is a 50-50. But then you also need Norwich to lose to Manchester United for the possibility to double to happen. I think because of what I've said about, obviously, Newcastle City, the game's getting postponed from 34, possibly staying in the same game week. I think to level out the amount of fixtures in 34, 37, I agree with Ben. It's possibly a little bit more likely that Norwich and Everton goes into 34 than 37. And in which case, Norwich would have a double game week of Everton at home and Watford away. Is that right? No, sorry. Yes, Watford away. And Everton would have Southampton at home and Norwich away. And that appeals. They both appeal as double game weeks, actually. Definitely you go Calvert Lewin, Richarlison, Dean, I think. If Luca Dean's fit, lock that in. That's fine as a free hit possible. And for Norwich, I think you'd possibly go for the goalkeeper, actually, Tim Krul, because of the potential of penalty saves. You probably would go with Pookie on the free hit, and it might be the sort of one where, because of affordability, you'd go, Emi Buendia rather than Cantwell, for example. So I think, you're in. You had Sheffield United to that, and then potentially that's your 9, 2 Liverpool players, there's your free hit. That doesn't sound that appealing, but it sounds more appealing than doing it now for City Arsenal. And I think that's the sort of circumstance we'll end up with. It's something like Norwich, Everton, Sheffield United 34. Could be completely different though. Brandon Majalis thoughts on McCarthy to Pope game at 31. Yeah, consideration as earlier. Foster for me as well. Gravy Davis, Deeney a good pick, or should I avoid him? So Deeney's one that will obviously come into contention for 31 free hits. I think he'll end up being in a lot of 31 free hits if there's any uncertainty in terms of who's playing up front for Burnley. Chris Woods, hello, mate. James was always going to bench boost this weekend, but do you think Southampton defence, especially McCarthy, are a waste of a chip? Yeah, but if it's your plan, it's your strategy. I know there's a number of people who are involved in the community who are going to bench boost this game week, and I wish you the very best of luck with it. The chances are, Chris, that with City Arsenal being added to the game week, from your planning perspective, it probably even looks better than what it was going to look for you beforehand. So good luck with it, is all I could say. I'm not keen on this whole bench boosting in the single, but Andy, obviously, Let's Talk FPL was on the stream earlier. See what he had with McNeil and a Burnley defender the other week, and he had 2 Southampton players as well. Both returned clean sheets, and he bench boosted in that game. It was 26, wasn't it? So it can work. It's just not for me. I'd like the insurance policy of the double to increase my chances. And I think, guys, we'll probably wrap it up there. I know I missed quite a few of you off in the middle, so sorry about that. Thanks for the elite guys joining in. That's nice. Send my love to the guys. But yeah, wrap it up there. If anybody's got anything further they need to ask, by all means, get in my DMs. Please be aware that I will be on the Source drinking this evening. So you're probably not best to ask me a question late at night. I probably will respond and answer you, but you probably won't get an answer that's any good for you. If you are in London this evening, do come and have a drink with us. Me and Serge will be meeting up with Brandon, Josh, Tom from Who Got the Assist, a load of other people from the FPL community for a beer in London. It's not far from King's Cross, Farringdon. If you can make it, pop down. It's just a meet up. There's no tickets or price or anything like that until I get on the door and someone charging me something. No, I don't think so. Come for a beer. Other than that, have a good game week. Monday's people poll will be FPL related. Will in some aspects in relation to chips somewhere, be it what should a 31 free hit look like, what could a 34 free hit look like, what's best strategy moving forward once we've got this double out of the way. So we'll be in a very FPL themed focus, which I think the community feels like it needs at the moment. This morning's final plan, for those who are hanging around for the YouTube video, I'm not sure if it's on yet, but it should be very soon. I have a message from Manchild saying on now. So it could be that the final plan from this morning. If you're going to watch it on YouTube and not listen to the audio yet, may I suggest you get a pen and a paper out. I'll explain some possibilities where there may be no double game weeks in game week 34. But anyway, good luck this game week. We will leave it there. Thanks for joining us. Similar time next week. Podcasting back Monday. Catch us on Twitter, Planet FPL Pod. And have a good weekend. Ciao for now.